Hey everyone, welcome to the Healthy Teen Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Erickson, and this is the show where we dive into the real stories behind thriving workplace cultures, exploring everything from wellness and morale to leadership and productivity. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Margo Harrison, CEO at Wave by Inc. Dr. Margo Harrison is a board certified OBGYN, and she's also the visionary CEO behind Wave by Inc., a company she founded to champion reproductive autonomy and redefine how we support women, not just as mothers or patients, but as whole people. Margo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love that summary. That was very beautiful. And I really appreciate you kind of going straight to the heart of the real mission of the company and the vision. So I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And Margo, let's kick things off by having you tell a little bit about your business and the kind of work you and your team do at Wave By.
So I think because of the way you started, I'll start with what our big vision is. And to your point, we really believe that every human should have the opportunity to fulfill their potential. And so, therefore, every woman should have the opportunity to fulfill her potential. But the truth is, she's menstruating 450 times in her life. And if you are a woman, or you care about a woman, or you've been close to a woman, they don't always feel like their best self when they're menstruating. And that adds up to 7 years of time where they're kind of like not at their baseline. They don't want to be a superhero. They just want to be their regular self and they don't feel normal. And so, what we're doing at Wave By is designing products to promote cycle health, including treating period pain, bleeding, and irregularity in order to make the menstrual cycle more predictable, less impactful, and really give women that time back. One other thing about our products is that they really require a deep understanding of the menstrual cycle, which a lot of people do not have. And so once you start to lean in and learn about the cycle and how you can be in control of it and use our products to take control of your menstrual cycle, that to me really ladders up to bodily autonomy because it's something very special for a woman to expect her period to come and then it to actually come when she thinks it's going to come. It's like something that people have never put the time into before. And it ends up making the period an incredibly positive experience and making people feel incredibly connected to and in charge of their bodies. And that's kind of the vision that we're hoping to achieve through our products is basically education that empowers people to take control of, understand their bodies, and make decisions that promote their overall life goals to fulfill their potential.
Wow, I absolutely love that. I mean, knowledge is power, and your company is absolutely putting that into practice. That sounds absolutely amazing. Margo, what was the tipping point that led you to create Wave By? Was there a moment where you kind of realized that stepping into business was necessary to create the change that you wanted to see?
There was a moment. I will say that I have always felt like to have the impact I wanted to have in the healthcare space, that I would have to move beyond one to one care. And I originally sort of thought that was public health. You know, I went to public health school, and the school I went to, I think the motto was saving lives millions at a time. And so I think I really leaned into the public health themes. But as I moved forward in a medical career and became an academic physician and was an NIH funded PI, and I had money to study public health questions, it just was too slow. And so I think I've always sort of known that business was my calling. And I really felt like I needed to have impact and move health forward faster. So I left academia and started my own consulting firm working with venture backed women's health companies. But with respect to Wave By, and this may be a sensitive topic for some people, and I apologize. So maybe here's a trigger warning moment. Um, I provide care at Planned Parenthood. I'm a proud provider of care at Planned Parenthood. And every time I go to do procedures, I kept having women sit up and look at me and say, well, that wasn't as bad as my period. And that was like profoundly upsetting to me, that somebody rather have a surgery than have something that happens to them every single month. And that was the moment. It happened a few times. And then finally I was like, this is so easy to treat. Like, why is there this huge gap in like period pain care? People are really in pain, and it's not something that I think rises to the level that they really bring it to the OBGYNs. And I think the OBGYNs really feel like they don't have the right tool set to help women. And I don't think women need OBGYNs for basic levels of pain that they're experiencing, but they're experiencing significant pain. And they don't deserve that. They don't need to be doing that when they can purchase over the counter products that will improve their experience significantly. And so it was really that experience of providing surgical care to patients and then, experiencing uterine cramping and saying, well, the whole experience was better than this thing that's just part of my life. And that was very upsetting to me.
Wow, that makes so much sense. Margo, as a doctor, you're trained to help heal people, to make them feel better. And as a CEO, you're shaping systems. What was the biggest mind shift that you needed to make when starting Wave By?
With respect to teams,
It could be with respect to teams or however you care to answer the question is just fine.
okay, I think the biggest shift, um, and then this is physicians see 30, 40 patients in a day. They're one provider. They have a team supporting them, but they are used to being overworked and to be working all the time and to be working on the weekends, to be working at night, to be working for years and years and years. And so you, for better or for worse, and I think for worse, when physicians try to get into business situations, um, we're very used to relying on ourself, being incredibly efficient, and having significant output. And so I think that most physicians are functioning at a productivity level that is probably the top 1% of workers. They're working a lot, they're working all the time. There's very little margin for error. There's extremely high expectations. It's a very stressful environment. And so I think when you go then and try to work on a team, it becomes a very difficult exercise because you do not have the management skills and the management training that's really needed to build healthy teams, I think. Um, and so the mind shift that I have been struggling with or trying to learn more about or become better at is I'm not the only one here. There's a whole team moving this process forward. And how do I calibrate my own expectations and capabilities and productivity levels for other people who don't come from the type of background that I come from? And then how do I relate to people in a normal way? Because physicians don't relate in their working settings in normal ways. There's a hierarchy. There's a lack of there's great teamwork, but there's these are asymmetrical power relationships, and I don't know necessarily. I know that people bring that mindset to business often, but I don't know necessarily that it creates the most healthy teams. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is shifting from a healthcare team and all of the years that you've spent working in one type of structure into, a startup company structure is quite a difference. And it is something that I think is one of my major challenges as I've entered this phase of my career.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because certainly you have very high expectations for your own personal productivity, and then your team members are probably not functioning necessarily at that optimal level of productivity that you personally have. Uh, so, could you share any more with with anything that you've put into practice to kind of support your team and kind of meet them, Margo, where they are?
So, I think there's a whole infrastructure built up in the world to support CEOs because CEOs are not perfect. They're just regular people and they're put in leadership positions, and there's coaching and there's all sorts of external support systems that have been set up to help people be better. And so, as I've gone through this experience, as just a person, and I have a lot of insight into my own weaknesses, and I'm very aware of what they are. Like I would say, I'm very impulsive in decision making, and that works great when you need to do a C-section in 30 seconds to save a baby's life. So I am quite fast, I'm quite impulsive. And then my comfort level is really probably where most CEOs are, at the vision level and the 30,000-foot view level. And I find that really getting in the weeds can be quite hard for me. It's something I had to learn how to do when I wrote grants. So, you know, I think the biggest learning is that it takes, it is not my natural place, or I haven't figured out how to make it my natural home to be a great manager. But that doesn't mean other people aren't great managers. And so, one thing I've done is worked with somebody on the operations side and basically said, I really need you to step up and be managing the team and be sort of making sure that things are moving forward and that things are happening, because I almost, have an inability to understand what appropriate expectations are and what is the right amount of right level to be pushing somebody to. And I'm not a big fan, honestly, of being like, this is the KPI, you have to do it. Like you have to meet it. I don't know. I don't like creating adverse incentives like that are like, you do this or you lose your job. Like I'm not, put the pressure on and somebody's going to deliver. They're capable of it. You haven't created the right environment for them to do that. It's not, I really want people to find the right role for them within the company where their passion comes out and they're driven by like feeling like it's not work. That's kind of my goal for a company. And so I need people to tap into their best selves and make sure that it aligns with their position. And I need to adjust the position to make sure it feels like their passions are being nurtured. But I I can't bird dog whether or not they're doing their job. It's not a comfort zone for me. I can't do it in the right way. I haven't figured it out yet. And so my answer is basically I need someone else. And, right now I don't have a chief operating officer, but like, when my company gets to the point of like really needing to perform and really needing to execute, I will require somebody who can focus internally while I focus a little bit more externally and internally on making sure like goals are clear, and that trajectory is clear, and that my own vision is aligned with where people are heading. So I don't know if I answered the question. I feel like I'm not. I guess the answer to the question is I haven't figured out how to be the right person in that way yet, and the only way I can do it is to empower somebody else on the team to do a better job than I think I would.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, and that's we're all on a path of continual learning, right? Continual learning and growth, and that's true for CEOs as well as for our team members. Um, what lessons from the medical world have would you say that you've brought into your leadership style or your company culture?
You know, I'm not sure that the medical world has much to offer by way of positive culture building. Um, I don't think that health I don't think that healthcare is fully a business. It wants to be fully a business, but it's conflicted by these underlying altruism. And so it's like an 85% business or like a 93% business. And it has so many players in it that it's so unclear what the incentives are. It's just, I've never seen a healthcare setting that was truly a well oiled machine, truly a business, because there's always a pressure to um, be altruistic and provide good health care and do right by the patient. And it just creates a lot of environments that are poorly run. There's just a lot of stakeholders, and it's hard to get all the stakeholders in the same room. And so I don't think there's a lot of lessons from healthcare to be brought to business. Um, I think one learning, there's one thing I could say. In healthcare, when you deliver bad news, you never deliver the bad news without a plan. So you never say you have cancer, I'm sorry, right? You say you have cancer, this is what's going on, and this is my plan and how we're going to approach it together. And you never give bad news without a plan. And so I think that's maybe one thing that is quite effective if you have to deliver bad news or deal with a difficult problem, is to say, like, this is a bad thing that's happening, it's real, but like, here's our plan. So maybe that's one thing I've sort of taken from the healthcare setting over to the business setting. But I'll have to think about that one a little bit
Yeah.
more, because I'm not sure it's like a pinnacle of, like, something that we should aspire to. I haven't seen it work well for physicians or patients yet.
Well, actually, I love that, delivering bad news with a plan, because I've seen managers who just delivered bad news with no plan and left their team members just there to flounder and to really put them into a place of panic. So that's a very valuable lesson, and something that all leaders should always do, I would say. Margot, how do you think reproductive autonomy connects to broader conversations about equity and leadership in the workplace?
Yeah. Um, so reproductive autonomy, it literally just requires like a basic understanding of your own body and how it works. And so that you can take those tools and make decisions. Do I want to avoid pregnancy right now? Am I seeking pregnancy right now? Do I understand how things work so that I can achieve whatever my goal is? Um, and I think that if you're talking about equity in the workplace, I think it's hard to understand exactly what is meant by equity in the workplace. But what I would say about that is, like, each team member kind of needs the pieces of information they need to achieve their goals, or they need the supports that they need to achieve their goals. I listened to a really interesting podcast one time, and it was like, who are we to give each other feedback? Like, who is one human to give another human feedback? Like, why do bosses people, why do they give people feedback? And it really stuck with me. The host of the podcast was really pushing, like, well, if somebody can do better, you can teach them how to do it better. And the response was like, no, they're going to be really good at one thing. And if they're like, when they find themselves and they're really performing, they're just going to crush. Like, why would you want them to like start to perform better at something they're bad at? Like, just put them where they work well, and they're kind of continuing to be exceptional in their one space. Why do you have to give them feedback and make them feel bad when, like, they're exceptional at this other thing? And so I guess that's, I really had an impression on me. And in an early startup, everybody has to wear a lot of hats, so it's a hard thing to say. But if my company grows to the point where I could hire people for their passion and where they're exceptional, and I never had to give them feedback, because who am I to give feedback? I think that would be equity. It would be finding like what makes you not feel bad coming to work, what makes it not feel like work, and how can I set you up in a space where you're just enjoying yourself and therefore you're performing and you're exceptional. Um, I guess when it comes to leadership, um, leadership is a harder one because you can't be autonomous. There's so many things that you can't control. So you're just playing a constant game of, like, I posted on LinkedIn the other night because I was watching Top Chef, and they create these environments for Top Chef where it's like you're outside and you have three things and like blah 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 in 15 minutes, and like you have to make the best thing you've ever made. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a startup where it's like you raised money, but now you can't raise any more money, and you only have this many people, and you have to reach this outcome. And it's kind of like you can't be autonomous because you're always working within um, a context that you didn't design. And if you were working within something within your control, it wouldn't be hard. And so I don't know that reproductive autonomy necessarily translates entirely to leadership, except to say that, like, you do have autonomy to make the decisions and you want to have as much information as you can about the circumstances you're in to make those decisions and feel like those decisions are the full scope of what you want to have available to you. Um, but again, like, you're asking really good, hard questions. And um, I feel like I would need a little bit more time to, I think the equity one is easier than the leadership one potentially.
Sure, sure. Margo, if you could change one thing about how businesses, especially small ones, approach women's health and equity, what would you want them to change?
I would just say try to treat your employees the same. We all have unconscious bias. Like, I don't believe that, I've had a hard time believing that women can't raise money and that women's health can't raise money. Like, I'm kind of like, if you tell the right story with all the right check boxes and you've really de-risked it for the current environment you're in, you're going to get funding. The longer I go without being able to raise funding, I start to wonder if there's some of that in there, but I don't want to believe it. And I guess what I would say to small businesses that have women on the team is like, is there some way you can just always try to put people behind a curtain and look at the work they're doing or the job that you have assigned for them, and also not let the fact that they're a woman enter your considerations about their performance or their abilities or their work product? Like, can you not be sexist? I mean, I think that's what I would wish, is just that women are incredibly capable. I mean, they carry so many things. They carry all the schedules in their heads, and they carry their work and their partners. And fortunately, in my family, my partner carries a ton of the mental burden. But women are incredible, and I think they're incredible like workers, and they have more potential than you could imagine. And to see them as only women, I think is a would be the bad piece of it.
Love that. Um, Margo, looking ahead, what does success look like, say, 5 years from now for Wave By? Not just in terms of revenue, but in terms of impact.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say this on a podcast or like anywhere ever, but I'm not motivated by like dollars. I'm motivated by doing hard things that other people can't do and having impact that wouldn't exist if I hadn't done it. And so, absolutely, success for Wave By is getting a product on the shelf that um, people people just sometimes they can't see it. There's a lot of criticism of what the product is, and I know that it is brilliant. I know that it is possible, and I know that it can change 22 billion periods. And that for me is like success will feel so good when all of the people who don't see what I'm trying to do see it. That is success.
Love that. And I agree. I think that when we're impactful, when we're doing the right thing, when we're helping people, money is a byproduct, right? It doesn't need to be the primary driver. And I think for something like with Wave Buy, what a huge market. I mean, certainly the money will come. It's just a matter of getting it to market. Could you share just a little bit more about Wave Buy in terms of what the end product is going to look like? Will it be an app? Will it be physical products? Will it be any type of personal coaching? All of the above. Would you mind sharing a little more?
So we have three SKUs on the market. One is for cycle regulation, and two are for period pain and bleeding management. Um, Getting these SKUs to market has showed me that my original vision for the product that I wanted to put through FDA needs to happen. I put products on the market that didn't require regulation, and it's a little bit hard to tell the story and get the right product to women at the right price point with the right education that they need to be informed to take the product properly. And so we do have products on the market. My dream is to get a novel pharmaceutical on the retail shelf to compete with Midol, which has been on the market since 1911. And the primary ingredient is Tylenol, which is not very effective for period pain and doesn't work at all on period bleeding. So I would like to revolutionize the over the counter pharmaceutical space for period pain and bleeding management. And then I would like to turn around and make the direct to consumer company a cycle health ecosystem with more premium customizable products that meet a number of cycle goals, not just period pain and bleeding, but regularity, fertility, contraception, perimenopause, menopause. And that does come with an app and telehealth and basically product verticals across the menstrual cycle.
Wow. Well, Margo, I think you have a terrific vision. And anyways, I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you again, Dr. Margo Harrison, for joining us and sharing your insights on building healthy teams. And before we wrap up, could you let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you and learn more about Wave By?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Margo Harrison. So please look me up there. And our website is Wave, WAVE, by, like bye bye, BYE dot co. So just .co at the end, wavebuy.co. And you can find some of our direct to consumer products there. You can always email us through the website or message me at LinkedIn. And I'd love to hear from you and how we can partner, brand partnerships, collaborations, opportunities to raise awareness about our products.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into the Healthy Team podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and share it with your team cohorts or really anyone who's passionate about building healthy teams. We'll be back soon with more great conversations to help you build stronger, healthier teams. Until next time, stay well and lead well. Thank you.